Alright, hi everyone, this is audap. I haven't been giving the PlayStation too much love lately. The last couple weeks have just been Xbox and Switch games, so I figured we'd take a look at some of the more unusual things that are on the PlayStation 5. And one of those things is Nostalgic Train. So let's check this out. Now this is all walking sim, so if you're expecting a traditional gameplay, obviously that's not going to get it with this, so just bear that in mind. Outside of that, I don't really know much about it, other than somebody really loves trains. So let's see what's great about trains, so that I would be nostalgic about them. I'm floating within an eternal wrapping of darkness. This world of obsidian black is as heavy as the ocean depths, burdened with a clinging viscosity. It presses down relentlessly, a freezing cold trying to crush my skin, my fingers, the insides of my eyes, my everything. So far, it doesn't seem like a nostalgic train to me, and yet I still must reach up towards the heavens. I must escape from this prison into which I have been cast. But how? This is the kind of nostalgia you have? Wow, it doesn't sound great. It feels like I'm down in a deep slumber. My consciousness seems to be blending into this infinite vistas of life. My entire body feels faintly warm. Is this going to be it for me? Is this my eternity? I realize the sound is now reaching, scratching deep inside my ears. The sound of cicadas. To start with, it's only faint and distant. It swells like a wave, rushing towards a crescendo, before slipping away again. A little longer and it becomes clearer, more pronounced. An image swells up in my mind of trees, filled with cicadas, each one desperately chirping away their brief slice of summer. In the same moment, warm and humid air bathes my entire body. It isn't unpleasant. It feels clingy, sticky, like being enveloped in syrup. Such a warm and pleasant feeling. What? That's a warm and pleasant feeling? The light all around me is so brilliant, I can't even open my eyes. Soon, however, I notice dim patches, like clouds amid the brilliance. They dampen the light down. I raise my hand to try and block out the sun. This seems to make my surroundings easier to see. I also become more prescient in my body. I have hands. I have eyes. I have a body. Of course I do. And yet it feels like some big revelation. I start to move my arms, bend my fingers, and confirm my body. The brilliant white all around me gradually calms down. As it does so, my awareness of self and surroundings sharpens. Gradually, I found focus. Yes, I'm sitting down. Sitting on a hard wooden bench, a vivid orange color has started to spread before my eyes. Above that brilliant strip, there's a dazzling blue sky, a summer sky spreading as far as the eye can see. I fix my gaze intently on the clouds suspended listlessly against that blue. Then I realize that I'm sitting beneath some kind of roof. I slowly take a moment to look around. I'm still surrounded by the ongoing cacophony of cicadas. A dusty smell fills my nostrils, the odor of old wooden buildings. I know what this place is, an old train station. There is even a train stopped at the platform. I can't see any people. I can't hear any talking. There's no wind, and it's like the clouds. The very air around me is pinned in place. The inside of my head starts to throb. If this is a station, where was I headed somewhere? If the train is here, maybe that means I just arrived. I regain all my faculties at last, my surroundings coming into complete clarity. It might have stopped raining, because I see vapor rising from puddles on the ground. What was I doing here? I really have no idea. I try to remember, to think back, but all I can see is the white-filled world from before. What happened to me? Why did I suddenly wake up here, of all places? I look at my hands again, still puzzled, wondering if I have any possessions with me. No, I don't seem to have anything. My name? Nothing. I don't even know that. My family? The house I grew up in? Nothing comes back. I look down at the pure white one-piece dress I'm wearing. Breeze suddenly blows past me, the air coming alive. The straw hat on my head is almost blown away, but I hold it down with one hand. Just like the sound of the cicada slowly working its way into my body, now something else is slowly filling my body, a clinging sense of dread. I don't know where I live, who I am, even my name. What should I do now? There has to be something. I woke up here, which means I must know this place. I need to look around and try to find a clue, a hint, a fragment of anything to jog my memory. If I find people, if I talk to them, I'm sure to find someone who knows me. Something has happened to me and my memory has become muddled. That's all. I'll start by taking a look around the station. Having made that decision, I slowly stand up. Well, it's incredibly well written. Press R2 and the next place you can search will glow. Take a look around the station. Press triangle to change the option setting and change the controls. It is not at 60 frames, though. I would have expected a walking sim to be 60 frames, quite frankly. A small staff room for a small station. It looks like someone was working here recently, but I can't see anyone now. Trains probably only depart infrequently from such a small station. When the staff are on a break, maybe they all go away somewhere? I mean, it is pretty well rendered. Not 100% realistic, but pretty good, I think. Oh, okay. I can render the same thing twice. That's interesting. There's a public restroom here. No one appears to be using it, and I don't need to either. How far do these tracks lead? I see the frame rate is unlocked, so there are times when the frame rate does actually kind of increase a little bit and jumps. So unfortunately they didn't lock anything down. The train doors are wide open, but there's no sign. But there's no sign of the driver, conductor, or any passengers. The train is completely quiet, a slumbering metal giant. Maybe it will get underway soon? I kind of doubt that, man. Yeah, it's got that fake motion blur, which drives me nuts. I really don't understand how people like it. I don't have any recollection of the station name, Natsugiri. Why did I wake up here? What made me pass out? I don't think there's anything more for me inside the station. I'll try heading out into town. Then I have a good idea. Stations always have a notice board right outside them. That should have a map and tourist information. There might be something there to trigger my memory. I decided to head outside and take a look. No, that's not it. Okay. Outside the station. Oh boy, I didn't translate any of this. Well, for folks who can read this language, there's probably a little bit more in it for you than me. I did start studying some Japanese, because I thought I was going to move there, but then I decided to switch and prepare my move to Korea instead. Kind of a lot of things went into that decision. And the languages don't really share much in common. Well, I mean, yes and no. There are portions of the language that are common, since Japan occupied Korea for a certain amount of time, and I should look around the vicinity. Wow, why is it so fast? I should look around the vicinity of the station a little longer. Okay, I'm missing something apparently. What am I missing? Welcome to Natsugiri town. There's a brief description of the town and a map here. A quiet mountain stream, soothing beach, historical shrine, and a spread of nostalgic countryside scenery. There's some more stuff about some old mysterious legends, but overall it seems like a pretty unremarkable countryside town. Is this really where I'm from? I hope I can meet someone I know. I look around but see no signs of any cars or people. I turn around and notice something promising. There's a shabby old bookstore across the road, and the door appears to be open. There might be someone inside. I should go over and take a look. Across the street, eh? Is that a bookstore? Something with a door open. Hello? I call out a number of times, projecting my voice to the back of the store. No matter the number of times I call, however, I get no sense of anyone actually being here. But no, that's not quite right. The old books are piled up haphazardly on the shelves and in cardboard boxes. The slightest tremble could send an avalanche of paper. The fan isn't turned on, but there's not much dust. There's a hand towel the owner was probably using, and the calendar has been ripped off recently. It's like someone might appear at any moment, like they could already be standing here. But I still don't hear any voices. It's like everyone has just evaporated into thin air. The only sound ringing out now is my footsteps, a fact that only makes me feel even more alone. I narrow my eyes to take in the interior and strain my ears to hear. There are posters here for things like the Natsugiri Floating Lanterns event and the summer festival. Maybe all the townsfolk are off getting ready for that? The thought helps me calm down a little. A book catches my eye and I flip through the pages. It feels like I'm just killing some time with a little free reading while I wait for my train. I almost expect the old bookstore owner to nonchalantly show up, grumbling about this not being a library. And then more passengers for the train would appear too, and this coincidental moment of abnormal silence would shatter into safety. I can make it through this, I'm sure. I can beat back the anxiety growing inside me. I take a moment to keep the tears from spilling from my eyes and look over the titles of the books and magazines. One magazine catches my eye with a feature article called Spirited Away in Natsugiri. The magazine seems to handle mysterious happenings and the strange legends from around the world. There are some pretty bizarre articles, including about water goblins in Europe and incantations to change a person's face. The pages are all yellow and look ready to fall apart. Someone must have picked it up because of the article about their hometown, eventually leading it to this graveyard for print. I use the contents page to find the article on Natsugiri and start to read it. At a glance, Natsugiri seems like a normal countryside town, but dig a little deeper to find persistent legends of people suddenly vanishing. While researching this article, we talked with the former principal of Natsugiri Elementary School, who wishes to remain anonymous, but is also a local historian who has tracked these legends himself. The legends of vanishings from Natsugiri, he told us, date back to when defeated soldiers first settled here during the Genpei period. Children, old folks, adults, and even entire families can just vanish one day and never come back. People say they were taken by bandits or fell into the river, but what they really whisper about, what they really think is that the mysterious powers present in this place are to blame. Even today, parents still tell their children that they need to behave or they might be spirited away. Or they might say, treat your parents right, treasure your friends, or everyone you care for might be spirited away instead of you. Do you want to be all alone, eh? Do you? What's even more interesting is that if one of the vanished gets very lucky, they actually can come back. A traveler at the end of the Edo period was passing through the town and apparently met with just such a vanishing. He vanished, but then, not long afterward, he also came back. There's record of this event from the start of the Meiji period. Of course, there's no way to confirm the truth of it today. The records state that the traveler was suddenly enveloped in a bright white light, and then awoke, his memories gone, in this village, but with no one else here. When he awoke, he didn't even know who he was. He had no memory of even coming to this place. There were fires in the fire pits and tools out in the fields, like people had just been there, but he was unable to see a single soul, unable to find anyone at all. He desperately searched the deserted village for any clues to get back to the real world. This is purely conjecture on my part, dear reader, but it sounds like these vanishings in Natsugiri involve individuals somehow finding their way into an overlapping parallel dimension where they can share the same space as other people but not see them. In any case, the former principal continued his story. The traveler desperately searched for a way back to the world he came from. After walking the entire village from corner to corner, pillar to post, he happened to notice a faintly shining object. Something down on the ground was glowing like a ball of light. He gingerly reached out for it, and when his fingers made contact, he saw glimpses of someone in the real world. Memories and feelings connected to that person flowed into him. This part is pretty vague, but it seems that touching something and imparting a strong intent into it allows some kind of message to be transmitted to the real world, triggering someone on that side to also remember the person who was vanished. The truly frightening thing here is that, just as the one who vanishes loses their memory, the people in the real world also rapidly start to lose their memory of the person who has vanished. So it was through the use of an item, some media that connected the two worlds, that they remembered each other. In the blink of an eye, the traveler was back in his original world. Like he had never vanished at all. This world just blinked around him, and before he knew it, he was standing on a hill by the river, right around where Natsugiri Elementary School now stands, and that's where the record ends. After the account from the principal, the author of the article goes on to provide his own theories. There is also a selection of illustrations and photos intended to more to perturb the reader than elucidate them. I hardly even see the images anyway, surrounded in a white light, not even knowing where you are. A chill cascades down my entire body. My legs are trembling, preventing me from moving. When I started reading, I thought the people of the town were the ones who had vanished, but now it sounds more like I'm the one who has been whisked away from my original world. This all seems too similar to be a coincidence, but is such a thing really possible? It could be some elaborate, well-put-together prank, or it might just be having some kind of extended dream. That still sounds more likely to me. I feel sweat running down my back. I blink my eyes over and over to see if that makes a difference. Thinking how stupid this is, I take my cheek and arm and pinch them hard. Not only do I fail to awaken, but the pain in my cheek and fingers, the clammy feeling of my skin, the nail marks left in my arm, all of these things only heighten the feeling of reality around me. The person from the past in this article made it back. That means I still have a chance. On the reverse of that, however, there might also have been people who were completely forgotten and vanished forever. Could I maybe meet people like that in this world? Or have I been cast into my own solitary world, where with no one else here at all? Am I fated to vanish, without any idea who I am, with everyone who knows me also forgetting my existence? Gripped by that fear, I vow to somehow get myself back. I remember the article. The traveler returned to the area around the grounds of the elementary school. I'll go over there. I might find other clues. I look around. Then I recall the map at the station notice board. The elementary school should be up the hill after turning right from leaving the bookstore. I should head in that direction, while keeping an eye out all around me. Those white sparkles I've been seeing seem to suggest a link between this world and the one I've left behind. They also seem to be the only clue I'm going to get at the moment. I need to head to the school. Well, I know it said to go right, but, let's walk around a little bit, huh? It looks like a confectioner. I should be hearing the giggles of excited children, coming with a handful of pocket money to buy some sugar. That thought only makes me feel even more alone and dejected. There's no one at the police box either. Maybe they're just out on patrol. Maybe. Oh, I can't take the little tuk-tuk. That'll make things easier. Can't take the bike. Clearly nobody's using it. There are times here for the collection of letters. If I waited until one of them, would a postman arrive? there's a phone box here, but there's no connector. But it doesn't seem to be connected. It looks like a general store in a small town like this, with one outlet probably tries to stock a bit of everything. There still isn't anyone else around. It says cafe only below the name, but I can't see any customers and I can't smell any coffee either. Yeah, holding on the right trigger highlights the bright areas with the text, but it also adds like a lot of fog. It's like you're inviting Silent Hill into you. It says that this shrine was built during the Kamakura period. The people who moved to this area during the time experienced various disasters and strange phenomena, and created the shrine in order to quell the powers responsible. Oh, well, that doesn't sound great. But I need to go to the school. Is this the school? This is the elementary school. I can see a light from the direction of the school itself. I should head towards it. I reach out for a life preserver, half buried, half hidden in the school grass. Maybe a child playing down on the river forgot to take it home. It's semi-deflated, but would normally be easily overlooked. But it's also glowing with a mysterious light, and I sense instinctually that it has some connection to the real world. My fingers touch it. The instant they do, a wave of white light washes over my entire body. Everything instantly turns completely white. I hear people talking, distant, their voices warped. Is this the other world I'm seeing? A scene from the real world? It doesn't feel real to me, though. My body isn't there. I reach out with my arms, but there's no reaction. The scenery, smells, sounds, and memories of people. Everything is flowing into me from the life preserver into my hands. The sound of the river is rushing loudly. Just a moment ago, the river was flowing peacefully alongside the school grounds. Now the water changes to a mud-mixed brown and sweeps by in a viscous torrent. The air is thick with the smell of moisture. The sky is covered with rolling black clouds. There's almost no rain actually falling, but the ground is a little more than a mudslide. It seems heavy rain has caused the river to rapidly rise. Help! I hear the cry, so faint, almost completely drowned out by the churning of the water. Upriver, close to the base of the falls, I see a small black head bobbing up and down amid the writhing brown torrent. The child can't have long left, being swept along at incredible speed. In the next instant, right at my side, I hear small footfalls, desperately splashing towards me through the mud. A boy who happened to be in the school grounds has noticed the imminent tragedy and comes running over. He fixes his eyes on the drowning child, but for a few moments more, the second child still does nothing, seemingly frozen in place. I can see his legs and lips trembling ever so slightly. His eyes are wide open, but he doesn't know what to do, and seems unable to do anything other than watch the child drown. This muddy torrent is no place for another child, after all. He won't be able to make a difference even if he does jump in. The child shakes his head a few times, trying to push down his fear. Then he looks around. He finds a life preserver at one side of the school grounds, maybe forgotten by someone, maybe blown there by the wind. It's the same object that I'm holding. What I'm seeing here is the memory of this world as it relates to this life preserver. The child thinks for a moment longer, but then he makes his decision. Dashing forward with the life preserver in hand, he slips down the bank towards the river. Even if he can't swim, even with all the mud, that preserver should keep him from drowning. That preserver should allow him to save the child. Maybe that's what he was thinking. He slides down the riverbank from the school grounds and leaps into the brown water. But the volume of water is just too great, and its surface too roiling. Both children are tossed like dry leaves. They bob up, then sink down again, with no sign of them drawing closer together. It only takes moments for them both to be swept away downstream. If they reach the ocean, there's surely no hope for them to be saved. At the bridge downstream, adults have noticed the drowning child and are starting a commotion. It starts with a woman on the bridge as she sends up a cry. She might be the mother of the first of the drowning children. She calls a name over and over, crouching down while clutching her head. Then I see a second adult, a man, rushing over to the bridge. He has a hat and nightstick, allowing me to identify him as a policeman. He gives his hat to the woman, then jumps over the bridge railing and into the water. He begins the same bobbing and sinking, and for a moment I think the mudslide will take him too. But he doesn't let his wet, clinging clothes hold him back, and he gradually takes command of the mud. While struggling through the current, he makes progress towards the first of the drowning children. In moments he has grabbed the child firmly with his arm, then starts swimming back towards the bank. It all happens so quickly. I search around desperately for the other boy who jumped in. Even with the life preserver, he's completely unable to exert any control. Just when I think he's in the clear, his body is smashed into a rock and his head strikes a hard knock. The life preserver slips completely off his body and he vanishes into the torrent of mud. All this happens in the same moment the policeman reaches the bank with the first child. All the attention of the adults is fixed on that boy, the first one who fell into the water. Everyone runs over to him. Everyone is worried about him. I search again for the boy who is still in the water, hoping for him to rise up again. By now, he's well past the location of the policeman. His looks like nothing more than a scrap of tattered clothing. Far away in the mud, he is washed out to sea, without anyone noticing. The memories that follow these events flow into me. Night falls. Without anyone realizing, the second boy jumped into the river, and without realizing he failed in the attempt, the villagers are caught up in taking the first child to the hospital and shoring up the damage to the roads caused by the landslides. It takes more than half a day for the adults to realize another child is missing. The full-scale search only begins after darkness falls, the clouds clearing, and a cold moon shining down. Time continues to its resolute, regulating march, with no signs of the boy. No one saw him drown, after all. The morning light beautifully illuminates the village, and the people start to murmur about another vanishing. When his cold body is finally discovered, washed up on the beach. Oh, that's too much. My eyes burn with sadness. I squeeze my eyelids tightly and then look up. I find myself looking at the same quiet river that was originally here. I'm back in my empty, private world. Everything I just saw was a memory of the real world, transmitted through the life preserver. I can't see anyone in this world I've wandered into, but I can witness scenes from my original world by contact with objects strongly tied to memories of that place. I look intently at the life preserver in my hands. The magazine article said that finding something which connects the two worlds is the key to returning home. This life preserver could be one such link to the real world. It is also the reason why such a terrible thing happened to that boy. Even if he hadn't jumped in, the first boy would have still been saved. I wonder if I can't stop the boy from acting, and so prevent this tragedy from ever occurring. By, for example, hiding this life preserver. I hear a sound, mixed in with the wind and the river. Something I haven't heard here until now, a man-made noise. The sound of the railway crossing. This is the first sign I've had of anything working. Does this mean the train is running now? It might provide a way for me to get back home. With the life preserver in my hands, I decided to head back to the station. Yeah, to say it's for being an independent game, it does look really nice. You wouldn't expect an indie game to have this much work put into it. I mean, even though it's a small area, it's pretty well detailed. I had hoped someone might be here, that I might have returned to my own world, but the place is as deserted as before. There's still no staff and no people waiting for the train, but the crossing continues to chime and the doors to the train stay open. They seem to be inviting me inside, ready to depart at any moment. With the preserver in my hand, I board the train as though inevitably sucked inside. It's going a little choo-choo. I didn't even go see the shrine. I actually really wanted to see it. But, oh well. That's what I get for following the game's directions and not just exploring a little. Oh, I'm back. And I am Lupin. I'm not Lupin the Third. I wonder what kind of strange development this is. Without anyone else showing their face, the train started up like magic and then returned to the same station from which it departed. There still isn't anyone here. I hear the waves in the distance, the unchanging chorus of the cicadas. I suddenly feel pain in my fingers. I am gripping the life preserver so hard that my hands feel cold, the joints of my fingers highlighted white. I look around. Everything is still so quiet, but something I can't explain. Something I can't exactly explain. Something about the air of the place also feels very different. Is this the same world as before? It almost feels like the train has taken me to a new one, seemingly identical to the last one, but also different in some vital way. I'm drawn out of the train and back towards the school. Is it really different, though? Yeah, it's very nice looking. I wouldn't say it's like totally gorgeous, but, you know, very nice. The music's really good. Spot's still highlighted. I stand in the same spot, and scenes from the real world flow into me once again. The river becomes a rolling torrent of mud once again. The drowning child cries out for help. Splashing through the mudslide of a riverbank, the second child arrives and hesitates, unsure what to do. Everything is the same as my first time experiencing this. He quickly collects himself and starts looking around. Looking for anything he could use, something like a life preserver, but this time he doesn't find it. Taking it on the train with me has made it vanish. The sound of the boy in the river shouting, "Help me!" reaches the ears of the boy on the bank. There's clearly a violent struggle inside his small body as to whether he should just throw himself in anyway, even if it means almost certain death. But without the life preserver to bolster his courage, the boy is unable to do anything. His body's too small to hope he can survive that torrent. He covers his ears with both hands and crouches down on the spot, closing his eyes tightly and looking downward. It's almost as if, faced with this world in which a child is drowning in front of his eyes, he wishes to be able to vanish from it, escape from his inability to do anything. A moment later, however, the adults downriver take up their same shouting. A child is drowning. Things after that play out the same as before. The policeman throws off his jacket, jumps in without a second thought, and brings the drowning child to the bank. I breathe a sigh of relief. It looks like no one got hurt this time. I press my hand to my chest. Then I look at the second boy, his heart about to be crushed as he desperately tries to escape this world. You've been saved too, I want to tell him. You and the drowning boy. Both of you. There's nothing for you to worry about now. The boy still hasn't moved, is still crouching in the exact same position. Before too long, more adults arrive in the school grounds. They shout in panic, asking where the drowning child is. Once they can see downriver, they realize the policeman has already completed the rescue and relax. Then they notice the boy covering his ears and crouching on the ground. The adults look at each other, and they move towards him, puzzlement on their faces. Hey kid, what do you think you're doing here? One of them, a middle-aged man, angrily asks the boy. The other adults all start to take up the same accusatory tone. Were you just watching as Masaki drowned? Is that it? So the drowning boy's name is Masaki. The other adults also surround the second boy and berate him. You could have at least started shouting, raise the alarm. You're lucky that policeman noticed and was able to save him. If it had taken any longer, the poor boy would have been swept out to sea. The others take up the same chant, belittling the boy who was unable to do anything. It's cruel for them to demand a child to make such a decision under such intense circumstances. Not to mention, in the other world that I saw before, he did bravely try to save the boy, and drowned as a result. I get angry at this attitude from the adults. Masaki is the son of the president of the big department store chain. If something happens to him, it would be terrible for all of us. Hey, enough of this. We need to get over to the policeman and help get Masaki to the hospital. If we don't pitch in, it will be noticed later for sure. The adults dismiss the second boy for now and move quickly away. It seems the boy in the river is something of a big deal around here. Even so, the attitude of those adults is terrible, giving no thought to the poor boy at all. I look at him intently, still seething with anger myself at how they treated him. He still has his ears covered, for his part, looking downward. I can't tell if he's crying impotent tears or just squeezing his eyes shut and hoping to escape from this world. The child slowly fades from view. Then I start to hear the voice of a large number of students. The sky is now blue and clear. The children are sitting on the dry ground, all lined up, listening to the principal talk. For a moment I think maybe my vanishing has ended, and I've been returned to the real world. But that isn't the case. Scenes from the real world are just flowing into me again. I try to touch the children, but I can't. Their voices still sound like they are reverberating in from far away. The principal stands in front of them and clears his throat. His face is the same as the photo of the man I saw in the magazine article about the disappearances, although his hair is a little darker and fuller. In the magazine, it had said, former principal. I'm seeing him from a time when he was still the actual principal. It feels like connections with all sorts of time periods from Natsugiri's past are flowing into me. The principal starts talking. There's a child standing at his side. It's Masaki, the boy who was in the river. I thought that life or death experience might have rattled him, but he actually looks pretty pleased with himself, like he's there to get a medal or something. Morning assemblies like these are probably normally pretty boring affairs for the kids, but after the excitement of the near drowning, everyone is paying close attention to what's being said. The principal explains how dangerous the river is when it is swollen. He praises the bravery of the policemen. He comments on how important the lives of each and every child are, how they are unique in the whole wide world, irreplaceable if lost. He finally emphasizes that, if any of them were to see someone drowning, they should immediately start shouting and get some help from some adults. He looks over to the students, taking in each and every one of their faces. Masaki, standing at the principal's side, also looks from face to face, nodding as he does so. Then I notice one boy sitting in the back with his face buried in his knees. That's the boy from the riverbank. He's the one who's suffered the most as a result of all this. The morning assembly ends and there's a short break before lessons. Everyone runs over surrounding Masaki and starts asking questions. Was it terribly frightening? Did his parents cry? Masaki still seems pretty full of himself, looking over them like some kind of conquering hero. He boasts about his return alive, saying he's confident that he can face any further troubles life may throw at him, completely ignoring the fact that he was weeping like a baby when the policeman saved him. I'm getting a feeling for the state of the relationships at the school. This Masaki kid is the child of a local celebrity. Even if he's actually a bit of a coward and a crybaby, this is a small countryside town. Maybe the power and influence of his parents allows him to use other kids like his personal henchmen. That attitude is causing him to lose sight of himself. Even if the kids around him have started to see what's happening, their parents have probably told them not to be rude to him. Some of the kids might really see him as their leader. Then I turned my attention to the second boy, the boy who covered his ears and tried to escape from the world. The other students are still all milling around Masaki, saying how incredible it is that he survived that muddy torrent, and how there was at least one coward who watched the whole thing without calling for help, throwing some shade on the second boy in a roundabout way. The boy in question stands up, saying nothing to anyone, and walks over to the far side of the grounds, as though he can't hear any of the chatter around him. He has to be pretending, of course. Then he stands at the spot where he saw Masaki in the river. The life preserver is there, returned by me. He looks at it with an odd expression, then suddenly grabs it with both hands and picks it up. Perhaps a powerful feeling that he can't express in words is rising up inside him, perhaps images from an unseen other world. He gives a shout and throws the life preserver into the river. A few people nearby look around, but most of them are heading unaware back into the school. The life preserver is caught by the wind and doesn't even reach the river, rolling and tumbling away across the riverbed. There are tears pouring from the eyes of the boy. One kind-looking girl notices him and moves over, but he quickly drives her off. Every part of his body, every mannerism shouts, "Leave me alone!" At that point, the memories of the real world fade away again, and I'm left in the empty Natsugiri again. I look down at the life preserver, dirty, half buried in the riverbed. I wait for a while, with no new scenes or visions come to me. I want to pick up the life preserver again and think about everything I've seen and everything that's happened to me. I need to get down to the riverbed. Can I go from here? No, I can't go from here. I pick up the life preserver again. It had rolled down the riverbed after being thrown down there from the school grounds by the boy. I think over the scenes from the real world that I saw surrounding this life preserver and the actions I took with it. I spirited the life preserver away, for a start. That saved the boy who was going to drown. That had to be a good thing. Of course, the boy who was saved then had no idea of the tragedy he had survived, and ended up suffering considerable mental anguish as a result. It seems like a fact that I used this object to influence the real world, but my hopes of returning home had not been fulfilled. I can't even be sure that I'm doing the same thing as the traveler from the magazine. Is this the way to get back to reality? There was the strange light that appeared from the life preserver and the train. Even without words, some kind of mysterious power feels like it's been guiding me. The results may not have been perfect, but I saved a boy's life. That must count for something. Something is connecting me to the real world. I have no idea who might want this or why someone might want to show me these Natsugiri memory fragments. The article said that the traveler returned when someone in the real world remembered them, so maybe I need to find these connections. Watch these Natsugiri memory fragments and find a moment where our memories overlap. That seems a little vague, but attempting it also feels like my only choice. Then I sense another light, off in the distance. Something is shining on the other side of the river. Maybe the next time will be the one to connect my memories with those from home. With that hope in my heart, I head out again. I reflect that, sometimes, it might be worse to be forgotten than to forget something yourself. Especially if the entire world is the one doing the forgetting. Natsugiri memory fragment 1 complete. Oh, interesting. Let's see, is there another way over there? It seems like a rather dangerous way to go there. I don't even know if it'll let me. Can I jump? Jump is square. Oh, I can't jump well. this here? Alright, well, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Nostalgic Train, running on PlayStation 5. Yeah, it's definitely more intriguing than I thought it would be. Usually these walking sims, especially ones that are trying to tell a story through the environment, which I guess is what Freeman would be, usually they tend to not be very text heavy, and they tend to not tell a very good story. But here, there are pieces of some interesting story, and I think the translation's done pretty well. You know, this is a typo here and there, or some words that are in bad context, but overall, I think this is something that could really be enjoyed. I mean, obviously, it's not going to have the same sort of impact as a full-blown visual novel, or maybe some of the other walking sims out there, but I think it's a very good one, and if you like this kind of experience, then definitely check it out. It's like $13. So it's not very expensive, and I have to say the visuals look pretty good. Again, considering it's a smaller development team, or maybe not even a team, maybe it's only one person. Not really sure, but yeah, I'm certainly impressed. I like the visuals and sound. I like the story that's presented, and yeah, I'd like to see the other chapters. So if you're interested in seeing it as well, then let me know. I'd be more than happy to read this out for you. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.